Hello and welcome to Impact the Borough, a podcast from the Greensboro Chamber of Commerce. I'm Brent Christensen, President and CEO of the Greensboro Chamber of Commerce. Each week, a Chamber staff member will sit down with a guest to discuss what we're doing to start and grow businesses, create quality jobs, develop our workforce, and tell the inspiring story of Greensboro to the world. This podcast is brought to you by Truliant Federal Credit Union, a modern, mission-driven financial institution focused on the needs of its members, the businesses it serves, and our community. With 5 locations in Guilford County, including a dedicated commercial lending office at Friendly Center and a highly rated mobile banking app, Truliant makes it their business to help you grow yours. Visit Truliant.org for more information.
Hi, I'm Niketa Greene, and I'm the Program Director of Leadership Greensboro at the Greensboro Chamber of Commerce. I'm here today with Brandon Inscore and Elizabeth Paul, and we're going to talk about Leadership Greensboro, and demystify what the program is, and talk about some of the changes that we've made to Leadership Greensboro since the global pandemic. But first, a little bit of background about Leadership Greensboro. Leadership Greensboro is, I think, a very engaging signature leadership development program at the Chamber of Commerce. We've been around for 44 years, engaging with industries across the city. Our foundational goal is to connect, to serve, and create impact in the community. So it is a 3-part leadership development program. It involves formal leadership development through our signature 9-month educational component. That means that we have monthly day-long sessions from August to May. We have a 2-day retreat. All of our classes complete action learning projects, and we have overall an outstanding curriculum facilitated by the Center for Creative Leadership. We bring together a cohort of 45 professionals from all across the city, diverse in industry, and a primary part of what they do is connect to one another better, as well as connect to the community much better. They also have an opportunity to come back and volunteer to participate as program chairs or day chairs. And so we'll learn a little bit more about that today. So again, I have with me Brandon Inscore and Elizabeth Paul. Would you guys like to introduce yourselves? Tell them a little bit about you.
My name's Elizabeth Paul, and so I would have been class of 19 and now get to be a program chair for class of 2020. I am a director of development with the Bryan School of Business at UNCG, which is just a fancy way to say I've raised money for an institution of higher learning. I moved to Greensboro in the spring of 2017, and despite my husband growing up here, I didn't personally have any connections. And so when the opportunity to jump on board with Leadership Greensboro presented itself, I jumped right in, feet first, looked back, and I feel like I'm more from here now than he is. So I am so happy to give back and be on this podcast and share what I know, because it truly has been an amazing experience. And I'm an official Greensboroan. How do we say it? What are we? Greensboro Heights?
I feel like Greensboroan. I like it.
Okay. Maybe by the end of the podcast, we'll come up with something to tag ourselves. But
right.
I'm thinking on
it. Awesome. Thank you, Elizabeth.
My name is Brandon Inscore. I am a 2019 graduate of the Leadership Greensboro program, and am also a 2020 program chair. I'm a manager at Withers Ravenel. It's an employee-owned engineering firm that's based here in North Carolina, and I'm the office leader for the Greensboro office. I came to Greensboro in 2001. I followed my girlfriend, now wife, here, and attended school locally at Elon University, and did some graduate work at UNC Greensboro, and have made Greensboro my home. Prior to my current employment, I've worked in local government, both in Guilford County schools and for the city of Greensboro, I guess all told for 16 years. So I had a lot of familiarity with the community over the last few years, but I had a great opportunity in participating in this program to learn even more about my community and make some great connections.
Awesome. That's what we want to have happen, Brandon. Thank you. So, and as I said, I'm the program director, which means that I lead all of the operational, strategic, curricular components of the program. But the program chairs are really my right and my left hands throughout the process. You essentially have no time to relax after graduation, because we started working kind of right away as the core program planning team together. So can you tell everyone what you all do as program chairs?
Well, the role of the program chair, I equate it to a board of directors seat. I think at a high level, we're providing input and feedback on the overall direction of the program for the 2020 Leadership Greensboro class. Some of this is based on our own experience going through the program, things that we liked, didn't like, things that we wish we could have been able to do. And some of this is based on our observations on how things are going as we go along with the current class, because we're embedded with them, and we can get that feedback on the ground and kind of detect how they're feeling and what's going on, and make adjustments on the fly to optimize their experience.
I would, just to piggyback, I think, yes, all of that. And in addition, I think one of our main jobs as program chairs, in addition to the making sure they have a good experience, building on what's already been done, but every year, Leadership Greensboro settles on a theme. And for our class and a couple classes before, it's always been breaking the cycle of poverty. So who knows what it will be moving forward with what all's going on now. But I feel like as a program chair, it was always our job to make sure that theme was present throughout and woven in every day and every interaction. There's so much to learn about the area where we live that it's really easy to get in the weeds on a particular subject or with an organization. So it was our job, and it took all four of us plus Niketa to always remember, hey, how does this relate back to breaking the cycle of poverty? And so it's a really good experience to go through it again as a program chair. To hear it for a second time and to have it, instead of learning about it at the same time you're trying to wrap your brain around the theme. This year as a program chair, we really have an opportunity to just come at it from that 20,000 foot view and make it stay top of mind for 45 other people, which feels like a really powerful thing, I gotta say. And hopefully, as we continue to do things like this, we're going to really see the needle move on these themes year after year. Niketa does a really good job of prepping us to make sure that we know it's our job to make sure that that's top of mind for everybody, so we can continue to make a difference.
And I will say you guys have done a great job at doing that and making sure that we stay focused on what our theme is. In every way, you guys have been invaluable to me as a single staff member for this program. It has been amazing to have all of your diverse skills, thoughts, and backgrounds as a part of the team. I think it's important to Leadership Greensboro to have that, to make sure that if we're working with people from a diverse background, from all different experiences in the city, that we have that approach in the planning as well. So I thank you. We'd be remiss as well if we did not also give a shout out to the other two program chairs for 2020, Heavenly Walker and James Blackwell. They are also part of this dynamic team, and I've had a fabulous time. I don't want to break up. So this year, you guys have led the 2020 class throughout this program year, but last year you were participants. Can you talk about what the experience was like on that fine day in August, really of August 2018, when you walk into the room and suddenly you have 44 other people to hang out with every month?
Being totally new in town, or I felt like I was still new at the time, it was just sort of overwhelming. And I think you get in there and you're broken into groups and you're looking around and you're kind of trying to size everybody up and get a feel and a flavor for who are these people. And I don't know. I don't know if every class is like this. We are a very vocal, funny group of 45 people. So it only took about 15 minutes before Ben Hunter, big shout out to Ben, who works with Bernard Robinson, is shouting out things. And we had Ryan Blackledge, who is a lobbyist with Cone, who's one of the funniest people I've ever met. So almost immediately, I would say any anxiety I had about what's this going to be like. Niketa, you came out the gate totally professional, put us all at ease, and then our senses of humor kicked into overdrive. I must say, too, big shout out to our program chairs, because that first day, after drinking from the fire hose with all the info of, hey, what's coming at you for the next 9 months, we were taken to this little place called Breakout. And I will never forget my group. Now, keep in mind, these are highly professional people, but we've just met. We get locked in a room, blindfolded, handcuffed, and we have an hour to solve puzzles and break out and, save ourselves from the volcano or whatever was the theme of the room. And I feel like, the beauty of Leadership Greensboro is it puts you in so many situations that you have to get over yourself really quickly. You have to know when it's appropriate to step up and step in and speak up. And you also know when it's, you learn really quickly when it's appropriate to be quiet and let other people lead. And I think that is just the beauty of the program in general, is that's leadership in a nutshell, right?
Yes.
From day one, I want to say like 3 hours in, as I'm in my handcuffs and blindfold, I went from being anxious about what are these people going to do to impact my life and how is this program going to change me, to you're in a proving ground right now, Elizabeth, and these people are going to become your family. And they did. And it's been like that. It's been like that 2 years later. There are people that I still talk with. So
yes.
I can't say enough about it. And I miss having 45 people to hang out with once a month. How about you, Brandon?
But you have 45 new people to hang out with every month.
Exactly.
And I will say that first day, I remember it too. There were a couple of people, you mentioned both of them, and I was confused. I was trying to figure out, I thought that maybe they were leading the program.
Yeah.
They were that vocal. It took me a while to realize that a couple of those folks were actually in our class. So they were a lot of fun. But even after being in Greensboro as long as I've been, since 2001, it was really great to meet a dynamic group of new people. Working in local government for a number of years, my exposure to the local business community was more limited than I would have liked for it to have been. And so I was excited to expand my network and help establish my company's brand recognition here locally. And I think that was a big part of this for me, was expanding that network. And of course, as I just alluded to earlier, being a program chair, I've been able to expand that network even more. So it's good for your personal brand, it's good for your company's brand, and then it also gives you a lot of exposure to the local community, what the needs are, and how you can plug yourself in to fill some of those needs. And so having these people around you is tremendous in building that sense of community in your network.
And even as a program director, I feel like every year I learn more about what's happening in the community, and that's through the relationships that I get to have with each new class. I would like to say, though, as a disclaimer, that no members of the 2019 class were harmed. during the handcuffed and blindfolded activity.
Yeah, maybe the scavenger hunt. Maybe the scavenger hunt.
Almost, right?
Now you're bringing back traumatic memories for me.
I know.
No trauma, no trauma. What were some of your favorite moments?
There's so many, and I think Niketa, we have to compliment you because from the minute we stepped in the room and you started sharing with us the program, I think the beauty of what you bring to the table is you encouraged all of us in every moment to bring your whole self. Bring your whole self here and be who you are. And that is very fitting in Greensboro's identity. I'm a little bit of an outsider, but I think the beauty of Greensboro is that it truly is a meritocracy, right? If you've got something to give to this town, it'll just take you in and absorb you, and whatever you bring into the table, come on with it.
Sure.
And so I think that theme and that tone always lended itself to just some really intense, engaging experiences. Besides being in the breakout room, we had an amazing scavenger hunt, which was educational, but I think it made us realize very quickly how competitive our class was. So that's a standout. But I think one of my favorite experiences, just as a group, personally, I would say CCL, going to Center for Creative Leadership, is just a personally intense experience because you grow so much. But when I think about the group, one of my favorites, I think, is Diversity and Inclusion Day. So not only having the opportunity to go and take the official tour at the museum downtown, and if you haven't been, big shout out, super plug, go spend the $10 to have the guided tour. It's amazing. But to go through that with my classmates, and two things happened that day. Number one, as we were in the original Woolworth setting, one of our classmates, I'm trying not to get emotional, one of our classmates, Kathy Norcutt, is kind of standing back and she's being quiet. And I look at her and we kind of catch eyes, and she says to me, I remember being here with my mother. I remember ordering lunch at this counter, and then my mother was never willing to admit that we couldn't eat at the counter. She wanted to protect me because I was a child. So we would get our food and she would just say, oh, we don't have time to eat here, we have to leave. And then they would go on the bus, and she said, my mother was a smoker, so my mother also pretended that we had to sit in the back of the bus because she wanted to smoke, not because of what was going on in the world at the time. I never would have had that conversation, Kathy, or probably another human being. And that was all kinds of powerful for me that day. And then after the tour, we all as a group had an amazing facilitator who really encouraged us to have these conversations where here's an opening. Anything you want to ask me as a white woman, as a Black man, as a Hispanic person that you don't normally get to ask because you don't know if you're in a safe space, let's ask them now, because the only way we're going to learn and grow is to have these conversations. And I just remember I came home and I couldn't shut up about that experience for like 2 or 3 days. And my husband was like, okay, enough. But it was that powerful. And I think that's what happens, not for everybody on the same day with the same activity, but I think that's the beauty of the program is everyone has those experiences along the way that they just change you at your core. They change your thinking. They change how you approach a situation. I'm forever grateful for being able to have those conversations that day. And so that to me was one of the highlights. And I'm sad that this year we're going to have to do that virtually. And I hope we can bring the same flavor to it. But that's got to be one of the best ones in my book. How about you, Brandon?
So, I'll echo what you said too. I think, first of all, I think the experience at the Center for Creative Leadership was outstanding. I walked away with a ton of content that I've used at work, and I believe it's made me a stronger leader. Those days spent there, I feel like were really special. I was able to spend time on me there. As a busy professional with responsibilities at work, and a young family, it's hard to set aside time for yourself. And I feel like that was an opportunity to be around a group of professionals also with some incredible passion and ambition. And I walked away energized from that opportunity. I'll also echo you on Diversity and Inclusion Day. There's a lot of politically charged issues like immigration that we talk about, and these things are highly charged in the media. People are very passionate about it, but until you have time to sit down and learn from people who are experiencing the impacts of policy decisions that have been made over time, uh, you don't truly know what their experience is like. And so the opportunity to sit down with folks from our community and in our class who have experienced immigration from a few different angles was really, really important. And to be able to do that in a safe space and ask questions, you know, to challenge some of your own beliefs and assumptions about these things, was really, really powerful experience.
Even hearing you all talk about it, I must say, it does. Even hearing your reflections is powerful, and I do think remembering the dialogue that you guys had on several days. It challenges you constantly. The experience challenges you constantly to think outside of yourself, even in my position with the organization, which is awesome. It is definitely a lot of time, though. As much fun as we have, as much as we learn, it is a lot of time that you take away from your own work life. I know Brandon works at a job where he has billable hours as well, so it affected his bottom line as well to be at Leadership Greensboro. So how did you manage it? Was it hard for you to be away from work, or did you look forward to your program days? Like, how did you balance that responsibility with the program?
I'll start. One of the things was I really grew to look forward to the days away. I will say that one of our company's core values is community. And so the company's leadership at Withers Ravenel really supported me every step of the way. Having said that, I still had responsibilities at work, and I wanted to honor my company's investment in me by making sure that I took full advantage of everything Leadership Greensboro was offering, but I also fulfilled my obligations to them with extra hours as necessary. As far as managing, my wife was really supportive in spending extra time away from her and the kids, and I can't thank her enough about that because she knew how much this opportunity and experience meant to me. And I also had a really supportive team of people at work. For me, my team, they're really good at what they do. So I didn't really have to worry about certain aspects of being away. So it was difficult to manage, but it was well worth it in the end, I think.
Yeah, I would agree with that wholeheartedly, that I never felt like, oh, I have to go out tomorrow. I looked forward to it. It helped me plan to be out of the office for a whole day. I think kudos to the chamber and to you, Niketa, for this program has such a good, strong legacy that most of the people I worked with and my supervisors understood the value of what I was doing. So they never questioned, like, God, why are you out all the time? You're gone for a whole day. What could they possibly be doing for you? So I think your reputation, the reputation of the program itself helps, right? It's the caliber of people that have gone through the program before us, that helps. But for me, it was such a nice, Brandon, I think you said this, it's time to invest in you also. Yeah, you're building your network. Yes, you're learning about Greensboro. Yes, it helps you professionally. But I think in this day and age, it is so difficult to take a whole day to invest in yourself. And so you very quickly learn, oh, this is my day. This is my day for me. This is my day with my class. And it's really easy to just turn everything off and be there because your program chairs and Niketa, and even a lot of times the speakers will say, hey, we know you have emails to check. We know you might need to step out and take a phone call. But for goodness sakes, show up and be present for as much of this as you can. And it's true. I mean, they're not just saying it because they don't want to see you texting. They're saying it because the content and the value of the experience is that important. And so it's an easy thing to know once a month, yes, I get these 8 hours. So it was something to look forward to for sure.
Good. And you guys have stated this in different ways, but if you had to boil this down to a word or a phrase, how has your time in Leadership Greensboro translated to value for you personally and professionally?
I think my word would be transformational. It transformed the way I think about where I live, work, and play. It transformed my thinking about the type of network that I need and want to have. It transformed my self-esteem in regards to things that I may have thought were sort of off limits, or I don't know if I should go for that. I don't mean to sound like Mary Sunshine, but I do feel like it's a badge I wear. I feel like a different person, and that there's nothing in Greensboro that's off limits to me anymore. So maybe access should have been my word, but I already picked one, so I'm going to go with transformational. But I just can't say enough. It changed Greensboro for me, and that's a powerful thing.
What about you, Brandon?
I really have a hard time boiling it down to a phrase. I think transformational or a term. I think transformational is definitely a good one. I saw a lot of change and growth within myself. One of the themes for me really was I gained a lot of hope. And this was echoed, I think, towards the end of our program, and it's been talked about a few times with our group. And, I think sometimes when you see all the politicians arguing and you see the politically charged rhetoric, it's easy to get down and depressed and negative and be cynical. And, I think one of the things coming out of this is that, we had all of these open and honest conversations without screaming matches, talking about issues that were complicated and difficult to understand. And we did it in a respectful way. We disagreed in respectful ways, and I think everybody was really open to trying to understand differences of opinion. And so I walked away from that being really energized and feeling full of hope. Not just for myself and my family, but for the local business community, because, you have a bunch of rising leaders who behave in this way. And so that was like number one for me. That was my big takeaway. And so even though it's hard to boil it down to a phrase or term, I think, that's what I walked away with.
Well, thank you for sharing that and kind of walking me through your experience, because it's one thing to see you guys going through it, but it's just even better to hear you talk about it. So you, after all the hard work in the class, you were nominated to be program chairs. And like I said, we hit the ground running kind of right after graduation, preparing for the next class, the 2020 class. And I think so far we've had a great year. We've had a wonderful experience. The program days have been wonderful. And then came the week of March 9th. The week that really changed everything for us as a country, as a city, definitely as a program. We were a week out from our Diversity and Inclusion Dialogue Day. We also had program days coming up in April and May, and a huge graduation plan on May 13th. And then the global crisis of COVID-19 happened. So we had already let the class know prior to March 9th that we were considering lots of information, knew about what was happening, and we told them to expect possible changes. But it definitely has evolved a lot more than probably any of the five of us could envision. And ultimately, we decided to host our next program days on Zoom. So that was a first for Leadership Greensboro, and to me, it felt pretty risky, considering that this is a highly relational, experiential program. Based on your really hands-on kind of in-person experience in the 2019 class, did you guys have any apprehensions about us switching to a virtual format for our upcoming program days?
Yeah, I think I was I think I was in denial that that would actually happen until it did. But I will say the genius of the program is that the class before you plans your class. So I think when we had to make the smart decision to do it virtually, because we didn't want to leave these people hanging, we didn't know. So let's just carry on, carry forward, carry on. That's a good sign of leadership, right? Adaptability. Like, let's just get the job done. I think once the decision was made to go virtual, it was easy to have confidence that a group of folks who are planning a day that had to replan it to go virtually had gone through the program, knew how valuable each day is, and I knew they would dig in to make it as special as possible. So yes, it was risky, but I think the fact that those who have gone before you know what a good day looks like, know what a good day is supposed to feel like, that I knew they were going to dig deep and figure out, okay, well, how can we try to make this special and engaging? And, was it a perfect day? Probably not. Certainly not as good as being around each other and having that FaceTime. But I do think it was really fun to see them be creative in ways and like, how can we try to engage 45 people through the internet, right? Like that's, we did fun icebreakers. We had Tai Chi. I mean, who could beat that, right?
Right.
So yeah, it was different, and it was scary to think like, is this going to work? Is this going to play well? But I think it can work, right? We proved it can work. So it's not something I want to see the whole program go to indefinitely, but for the time being, I think we can still provide a meaningful experience and get the information across and find interesting ways to engage in conversation with a tile of a person this big. So I it worked. It worked because we worked it.
And I would, I agree. I think it is something that it seemed to really engage the class. To give some perspective on it, we opened the program day. We hosted it on Zoom. We opened the program day with an activity, somewhat of an icebreaker. We had surveyed the class to get information about kind of what things people had done that were fun or interesting since we had been quarantined, so to speak. And we used that as a quiz to see how well people knew each other. And that turned out to be really funny. It kind of set the tone for the rest of it. We then had a really engaging panel with 6 experts from across the health spectrum in the city. And people had really insightful questions for that panel. And then, as you mentioned, Elizabeth, we shifted to demonstrations after taking a quick break. On Zoom, we came back and we had demonstrations, a Tai Chi demonstration and a guided meditation. So I think all of those components helped it to be a little bit more engaging. What would you say, Brandon, what would you say worked during our first virtual program day? What were the elements that worked for you?
I think the things that definitely worked for me, I think the quiz, the Kahoot quiz that we did early on, I think that was a great experience. As far as an icebreaker, had no idea how that would go or what that would look like. Also think that the panel discussion went really well. The way that we were able to alternate people and follow a normal panel discussion. And then I think the coolest part for me was being able to do Tai Chi and yoga from the comfort of my own home in a judgment-free zone. So,
Absolutely. And what would you say that this is something, given that it seemed to work, do you think that this is something that would engage classes, or more specifically, Elizabeth, can you tell me how would you rate the class's level of engagement during our virtual program day?
I think they were engaged. I know a lot of people weren't able to join, so that was a bummer. And maybe that was for the best since it was our first one, because 45 people in a, we're not a chorus, right? So you want to engage in conversation. So I think that was the scariest part. It's like, how is everybody going to have a voice? So our numbers were down a little bit for that, and I think that was good. So we could get one under our belt. I think moving forward, it's a workable format. I think the key to having a successful program day is we can't go the 8 hours, right? Like that's not doable. But if we can do these more compact days and keep the engagement up. So you couldn't do 3 hours of just panels, and you can't also do 3 hours of games. But I think that if we continue to mix it up in a shorter format and have opportunities to get them talking or submitting answers or playing a game, also while learning, is going to be the key to keeping interest and engagement. Who knew we needed each other as much as we do in person? But I do think, part of this is going to work moving forward, because I think we're all craving that connection right now because we are stuck at home. So I don't know if a virtual format would work if we weren't in quarantine, because I think people would get bored. But I think we're so, humans need interaction. And we like to see faces. And so I do think in these times where we're cooped up, it's going to continue to work for us, because I think we really want to have, this back and forth. So maybe not a forever thing, but for as long as we have to, I think we can make this work. And I think we're going to continue to have good participation. And I think it might be a good break from the monotony of homeschooling and whatever else everybody's doing to try to keep their jobs online. So
for sure.
make this the thing.
So what would your advice, what advice would you give to next year's program chairs? Because quite honestly, this could be a new normal for all of us as Americans, right? This could be infused in some way in the program coming up. What advice would you give to next year's program chairs about the virtual program days, if that is a component?
Well, I think first of all, we need to be prepared for it, because if there is a second wave, and I think, it's likely based on what the experts are saying that we're going to have to be prepared for that. This winter, we're going to be dealing probably with the flu and COVID-19 at the same time. So we're living through sort of an unprecedented time, and the group of program chairs needs to be flexible and willing to adapt, just as we've had to adapt this year. I think virtual meetings can definitely work. It can be successful. The hardest thing for them is going to be when and if there are virtual days to build that same set of shared experiences that you would get being in person. And so I think that, the one thing we've learned about calls, there's definitely a time limit. There's definitely a need to mix things up and transition. You have to be really intentional about that. And I think relying on feedback from any of the virtual sessions that you do, just as you do with the regular program days, is going to be really important for those program chairs moving forward.
Awesome. Did you have anything to add to that, Elizabeth?
I agree wholeheartedly. And I think maybe for ease of use, the next group of day chairs and the program chairs should just give the directive to the day chairs, hey, plan your days as if there will normally occur, but carve out or, highlight instead of having 10 things in an 8-hour day, go ahead and star the 4 things that you're going to do if we have to switch to virtual. So just always having that mindset of, all right, if these are our activities for, Health and Human Services Day, which ones of these could flip to an online panel or a game or an experience? How can we modify or just have that plan B? Big shout out to this first group that did it, because they spent months planning a whole day, and then they had
Yeah.
to plan. So I think probably for ease of use, just planning one time and knowing what you're going to cut to go virtual is a good thing. I also, now that we're all like expert Zoom users, right? Who knew? It might be a good thing for everybody to just take some sort of tutorial on Zoom so they can learn some of the stuff that we don't even know yet. I know there are interesting ways you can break out certain people into rooms, like virtual rooms for discussion, because I do think in the fall, that's where the bonds are made, right? So it might get a little tricky trying to gel a group of 45 people through the computer. So I would challenge them to think creatively of how can we do some small group work and you all get to know each other. Is that a game? Is that something that you all participate in to form those bonds? Since, we probably won't be able to handcuff and blindfold them like we did. But that's going to be the challenge. It's not facilitating a day of learning and fun. It's making the bonds. So that's
Right.
be the one, booger of an issue. How do we solve for that? Because it was different for us. They had all fall to get to know each other. And now there's camaraderie. And so we're all in this together. But I think that'll be the biggest challenge for the fall group, making sure that they keep people engaged at the beginning.
Absolutely. Excellent advice from both of you. And speaking of the next class, Leadership Greensboro will begin recruiting the next Leadership Greensboro class in late May. So everyone, please stay tuned to our social media. Follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube as we get ready for that. And hey, it might be a new normal in how we do it. Elizabeth and Brandon, anytime that I get to hang out with you two is a gift. This was fun. So thank you so much for yet again taking away time from your real life to give it to Leadership Greensboro. Thank you so much for talking to me today.
Thank you. This is, like I said, been one of the best experiences I've had. And I'm just sad we won't be having our monthly meeting. So if you need a program chair for next year, for continuity's sake, your girl's here. I would do it again in a heartbeat.
I told you I didn't want to break up, so I'm fine with it.
I know.
Yeah, and Niketa, we're grateful for your leadership. I mean, the local Greensboro community is grateful for your leadership and what you do with this program. And I'm really grateful to have been part of this program chair group. I think you all are a special group of human beings and have become some of my favorite people in the world, people I want to share things with as I experience them in life. And so I don't think we're breaking up.
Yay!
Oh, I love it. And once again, please follow us on social media. Facebook, we are at facebook.com/Leadership Greensboro, and on LinkedIn as well, linkedin.com/Leadership Greensboro. And we're also on YouTube. Thank you again for being here. Until next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This podcast is brought to you by Truliant Federal Credit Union, a modern, mission-driven financial institution focused on the needs of its members, the businesses it serves, and our community. With 5 locations in Guilford County, including a dedicated commercial lending office at Friendly Center and a highly rated mobile banking app, Truliant makes it their business to help you grow yours. Visit Truliant.org for more information. You can find all of our episodes on YouTube thanks to our video sponsor, North State. Impact the Borough is recorded at Press Play Studios. Producers are Brody Cohen Glaze and Holly West. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at GSO Chamber. See you next time.